Well, we appreciate you being here. First, I want to talk to you about education reform because I know that's a big topic of discussion in the State House, and I talked to the governor about it last year when he came. Where are we at on that right now? I know a lot of the smaller school districts are concerned about it. A lot of the legislatures in the rural parts of the state are concerned about it, being that they think that it's going to favor the larger districts. Where are you and the governor on this?
Well, we're really excited about where we're at this year. We've been working on this for 2 years, and one of our number one priorities since we took office was really restoring Iowa's leadership position in education. So we started with the Education Summit. We had a teacher and principal leadership symposium. We had the Bullying Summit, and we've done countless town halls all across the state of Iowa, really listening and trying to address the issues. Iowa's just become too complacent. In 1992, Iowa led the nation in education, and 37% of the state budget went to education. Today, Iowa ranks 25th, and 43% of the state budget goes to education. So we've worked very hard in putting together transformational, systemic education reform, and we believe we have that in the package. The legislature put together 5 task force last year. This is really the output of their work. We had all stakeholders at the table, which I'm really encouraged about that. So they really had a say in designing what our legislative proposal entails, and as well as the business community. They even held an education summit. They know how important it is to have a skilled workforce as they look for ways to expand their business and as we try to encourage new business to locate in the state of Iowa. So we know that the teacher plays such an important role in making sure that our students receive the education that they need. So there's really 3 components, and that's the teacher leadership and compensation package, and that really provides a career pathway, a 5-step career pathway for teachers to keep them in the profession. We lose so many of our great teachers after 5 years, so we want to give them the opportunity to be a part of co-teaching and instructional leadership, as well as earning more money for taking on additional roles. It's about better preparing our teachers as well as giving support to teachers in the system. So we're going to raise the beginning salary from $28,000 to $35,000. We also want to encourage the best students to enter into the teaching profession. So it includes a tuition reimbursement up to $20,000 for the top 25% of students. That's $4,000 over 5 years. They have to commit to teach in Iowa for 5 years. And then it would really start out by really going towards hard to hire subjects like math and science, but we would open that up as we move forward. And adding a career and college readiness seal for high school students if they want to go down that path in addition to their high school diploma. So we think it's imperative that we focus the new dollars on reforming education, and this is the pathway that we believe we need to go in order to make that happen. And we have the support, we believe, of not only the education community, but business and industry as well.
So this isn't a one-time fix?
No, this is a 5-year commitment, and it's really very strategic as we move through the process. One of the teachers, one of the requests was to put in place a year of planning. So as we look at this teacher leadership and compensation structure package, this 5-year career pathway, the first year will be a planning year, and we'll have about 1/3 of the school districts that will participate in that. A good mix, large, small, urban, rural. Some of those innovative school districts that really have already put in place kind of a similar structure. So we can start out with 1/3 of the school districts that we can eliminate a lot of the bugs, find out where we need to do some things a little bit different. So there's a lot of flexibility there. The overall structure is in place, but we wanted to maintain local government's ability to add some flexibility. And then we'll add another 1/3 and another 1/3. And we've really committed $160 million to just that piece of it. In addition to that, another component of the new education reform is the Teach Iowa initiative, and that also takes the 1 year or the 1 semester student teaching that the student teachers do right now, and it turns that into a full year clinical apprenticeship, again with the goal of preparing teachers better so that when they enter into the classroom, they've already had a year's experience behind them working with a model or a mentor teacher.
Do you think it can be done within the 30 days?
I do. I served in the legislature for 2 years, and I think our tendency is to not make any of those tough decisions until the last week. So whether it's 90 days, 110, or 5 months, they wait until the last minute to make some of these decisions. As I indicated earlier, we've been working on this for 2 years. Legislators have been involved in this. They're the ones that put together the task force. Those reported out in October. As we've held the town halls across the state, we've encouraged legislators to be there, and they have. So this is the output of all stakeholders at the table, and there's no reason that if they sit down and work on this, that they can't get that passed in February, and then we can take a look at the supplemental funding, which was allowable growth. It's the same. Our proposal is to prevent that from shifting to property taxpayers. So we want the state to fully fund the allowable growth piece or the supplemental aid. So there is, we just believe that we need to really focus on reform. This is a priority. Our students deserve this. I think parents understand that they don't like where we're at right now. You know, and it's not so much that Iowa has dropped, but we've just remained stagnant over the last 20 years, where other states that have put in stricter standards, more rigorous standards, have really developed teacher leadership skills. They've passed us by. And so not only is it a moral imperative, but it's an economic imperative, and our kids deserve better. So there's an opportunity, I believe, to get that done and meet the school district's budget.
Good. You did a good transition there with the allowable growth, because that's the next thing I want to talk to you about. I spoke with State Representative Kurt Hansen, and he spoke with the Van Buren County School District. $1,300 a year to transport a student. I know the superintendent at Cardinal is also concerned about the allowable growth. They're hoping for 4%. In the House right now, it looks like it's at 0%, according to the representatives from this area.
Well, I don't think it's 0%. I think what we're saying is, and they can happen at the same time. So we're not saying that, you know, it has to be this and then we'll look at that. We just really feel that it's imperative and it's important that we deal with what this new education system is going to look like. You know, we have great teachers in classrooms that are passionate about what they do and are working incredibly hard, but they're functioning in a 20th century model. We need to move to a 21st century model. We need to give them the tools that they need to be successful. We need to allow them to grow and to co-teach and to really be a part of that instruction so that we can use differentiated teaching for our students. It's almost like an individual education plan for each individual student. Competency-based learning so that kids that get it can continue to move on, and kids that need extra help can get the extra help. So, you know, there are a lot of opportunities for us to do that. We can do it at the same time. We can talk about the funding, but we've been very insistent that we're willing to put new dollars into education reform, but it needs to go to reform. 37% of the state budget to now 43% of the state budget. Our ranking has gone from #1 to 25th. It just doesn't make sense for us to continue to put money into a system that's broke. Now we have to fund transportation, and I know there's operating costs, and we agree with that. But you know, when I served in the legislature, we had a governor in Governor Culver that did a 10% across the board cut after a 1.5% across the board cut. Now let's talk to school districts about the impact that that had on them. Then, and that was in '09, and in '10, they didn't fund their commitment that they had made to the school districts. So when we came into office, we said we would provide predictability, stability, and we would honor the promises made. And so after receiving a cut, after budgets had been submitted, and after not receiving the money that they had been promised, we came in the following year and we honored that commitment. And so school districts actually saw an additional $216 million over and above what they had received the year before. And most of the teachers across the state were given, you know, a salary increase, which, you know, I'm not saying that they didn't deserve, but they were able to cover that because we fulfilled the promises that were made. So we understand that they have a budget to submit, just like we do, but we believe that the legislature can honor both of those commitments by demonstrating to our students we're serious about giving our teachers and them the education that they deserve, while also meeting the funding needs that they need to support that education system.
Do you think that the rural districts will be treated equally as the urban districts?
Well, I mean, there's already legislation in place to allow for property rich, property poor. It's such a convoluted funding mechanism. I think when I was in the Senate, I went to educational funding boot camp. You know, I've gone twice, and so I have sort of, you know, a fairly good understanding of it. But it's something that we need to continually look at. We're trying to reduce. We don't want to see it shift to property taxpayers. That's what happened when they did the 10% across the board cut. Then property taxpayers have to make up that difference. When they underfunded their commitment, again, that was a shift to property taxpayers. So what we're trying to do is to make sure that we're fairly distributing the money, and that we have a system in place that doesn't, that's predictable and then doesn't shift to the property taxpayers. And that's why we want to, why our goal is to fund the supplemental funding with state aid.
I've talked to several county supervisors that feel, Republicans and Democrats, that this mental health reform system does not favor the counties because they do want that local control. And I understand that the governor wants, you know, all the core systems to be available in each county. What's the concern from the governor that these county supervisors, both Republican and Democrat, aren't on board with this right now?
Okay, well, first of all, I mean, that's a couple different issues. So first of all, last year, for the first time after years and years and years of looking at the way that we deliver mental health services as well as disability services, they passed a comprehensive mental health redesign. All parties were a part of that process. Again, we had all stakeholders, county, mental health, community providers, legislators at the table. We had recommended originally that we do that over a 2-year phase-in process because it was comprehensive reform, and it wasn't easy to do. I think Iowa was the only state in the nation that paid for the services at the local level that it wasn't paid for from the state. So where they ended up, they did it in 1 year. So there's some bumps along the way as we transition for a system that's been in place forever. What it does is it really allows equity in services provided to all individuals across the state of Iowa. There really was a lot of disparity in the level of services provided to those individuals that needed mental health services. So our goal is to stabilize that and to make sure that those who need the services get it and get it equitable across the state of Iowa. It also allows the state to really, through economies of scale, to better manage the Medicaid dollars so that we can be more efficient in delivering those services, and that's what's going to allow us to be more equitable in delivering those services. So that's kind of the two main functions for the redesign. It's state funded, done on a regional basis, but delivered at the local level. So I thought it was really a great delivery service model, because I was concerned in Osceola from some of our local communities that we would still have that local contact, and really we want the individuals to be able to live in the communities that they're from, so we're not transporting them to the other side of the state. So this is a way that we can level out the services, better use the dollars, but still provide it at the local level. I think it's a good service delivery model. There's some concerns about the transition cost. We've met with counties. I was in the eastern side of the state. It doesn't matter where you're at. You know, there's varying levels. Some counties were very efficient with their dollars and paid their bills, and so they don't have an issue. Other counties do, and they're concerned about the wait. So we need to find a balance for that as we move to this new delivery system model. And I think we'll continue to have those discussions. Right now in our budget, it's just shy of $4 million to go to the counties for transition, but the state is absorbing all of the Medicaid costs, so we need to take that into account. I know I talked to some county supervisors yesterday, both Democrat and Republican. They thought maybe $11 million would get them where they needed to be, that could really allow the counties to transition in a proper manner. And so we'll continue to have those discussions, and I'm sure there'll be a compromise somewhere in between. We all have the same goal, right? It's the individual. We want to make sure that we're taking care of the person that has that mental illness or that disability, and we need to make sure that we're meeting those needs. So we're all serving the same constituency, and we need to work together to find a way to make sure that we're doing that. Now with the prison in Fort Madison, there was some talk about utilizing the existing facility. I think they've taken a look at how we can provide, again, the most efficient, effective, and safe manner to transition that population to a new facility that has different technology and different management needs. And so I believe Baldwin has indicated that it makes the most sense to move a smaller population into the new prison so we can train the staff with the new technology, the new supervision, management environment that they'll be in. And while doing that, we will disperse some of the existing population to other facilities across the state of Iowa that we have, other mental health facilities. I think Clarinda is one of them. I'm drawing blank on where the other, Coralville is the other one. So we'll utilize those facilities, and as we get the staff trained, we'll reevaluate at that time, and I think 900 is about the population right now. So we would gradually move back to what that population is. But we've got facilities, existing facilities in place, and we need to figure out the most efficient and effective and safe way to manage the population that we have. We've considerably reduced the prison population since we've taken office. I think it's down about 900. So that's about the size of one prison. So we've reduced the population. Really, that's attributed to the parole board and really the changes that they put in place. They're really working much better with the correctional Department of Correction, and really putting in, really gone from a paperless system to an electronic system, and utilizing all the members on the parole board in a better manner. So because of that, and recidivism has gone down. So I mean, it's been a win-win in what they've been able to implement.
When you see a lot of sheriffs say that they're dealing with a lot of prisoners that have mental health issues in their facilities, and these sheriffs basically know nothing about mental health. I mean, they ran on different things, complete different part of the spectrum. What can these county sheriffs do to get help from the
that's
state?
kind of the entry point. So if we can do a better job, I think. Now, I was just reading something this morning where Ames might be an example, where you've got Iowa State University, the City of Ames Police, and the county police are all working together to better identify those that have mental health issues. And I think one of the proposals that they put in place is that they have somebody coordinating all three, which I really like that. So they can do a better job of monitoring the individuals who didn't have like an aggravated assault or something, but it really is what they felt attributable to maybe a mental health issue. Then they have an individual that will monitor that person for like 18 months once they leave the county jail or the city jail, so that they can make sure that they're taking their medicines, that they're seeking treatment or help in a timely manner, because that's part of the problem too, to make sure that they're taking care of themselves, that if they are required to take medication, that they have access to that medication and that they're taking it, and that they have a physician or somebody that they can kind of keep them on track. So, doing a better job of identifying those that need the services, getting them the services up front, and then some way of monitoring them throughout their life to keep them out of jail. So I thought that was a good example of maybe what we could do moving forward.
I want to switch to gun control.
Okay.
This is a big issue, obviously, because of the recent tragedy in Connecticut, and the NRA saying that they would like to see armed guards at schools. What's the governor's take on this and the state's take on this right now with that proposed plan? I know the president wants something completely different. Where's the state of Iowa on this?
Well, our hearts go out to the families, and just nobody should have to deal with situations like that. And the individual, these aren't law-abiding citizens that commit these heinous crimes. These are individuals that are sick, that aren't abiding by existing laws. So we're hesitant about passing, new laws that affect law-abiding citizens. I'm a supporter of the Second Amendment. I think the governor believes, we already have procedures in place. My daughter is a first grade teacher. Monday after the shootings, we had Director Scouten with Emergency Management and Homeland Security. We'd be part of our press conference so we could talk about what the school districts already have in place and really the material that they have to help them implement and to help them design policies. I asked my daughter if they'd talked about it at her school district, and she indicated that they do have a procedure in place. They hadn't practiced it for a while, so they would take this time to really reflect on what they had and maybe take a look at some of the policies and procedures and see if there wasn't something that they needed to change. We think also that it probably needs to be a local decision. If local school districts feel that they need to have law enforcement in their building, that needs to be a decision that they need to make, that it shouldn't probably be mandated from the state.
Would you be in favor of the universal background checks at the gun shows and at gun shops across the state?
I would never say what I would be until I would actually see the legislation, because that really gets you in trouble from my perspective to weigh in on something when I don't know what the verbiage is and then they mistake what you say. So I would take a look at that. I think there already is some form of background check, but I would want to see that with legislation they always tend to overreach, and I don't think they get the results that they're looking for. I think we need to really make sure that we're executing the laws that are on the books. We need to punish the criminals. It's not the gun that's committing the crime, it's the individual, so we need to really be conscientious of that. But we've taken other methods too. I wanted to bring up too with making sure that our schools are safe. The bullying conference that we held just a couple months ago, really trying to, it's a culture. We need to let kids know that that's not appropriate and they can't, that has an impact on their peers and other individuals, and we want to make sure that we raise awareness of that and that kids have the right to go to school in a school that's safe. So, there's a lot of different areas that we've tried to work on: mental health redesign, bullying in our schools, and then really enforcing the laws that are on the books.
Let's change the topic to infrastructure.
Okay.
The state has a very large surplus right now, and many in the House, specifically from this part of the state, believe that some of that money could be used as a one-time fix for infrastructure improvements here in southeast Iowa. Do you believe that money could go towards infrastructure improvements, or even the gas tax, bringing that up again? Our roads are not as nice as they are in the metro. They are used more with farm equipment out here, obviously, but is that something you and the governor would be able to look at?
Well, first of all, the reason that we're really proud of the condition of the state right now, and we worked very hard over the last 2 years. We've made some very tough decisions. We eliminated one-time money for ongoing expenses. We eliminated a $900 million deficit. We put together a 2-year budget and a 5-year projection. When we took office, the cash reserves and the Economic Emergency Fund had been depleted, and we were at a deficit. So because of the decisions that have been made, we now have refilled the Economic Emergency Fund and the Cash Reserves Fund, and we have a budget. And we believe that Iowa is really poised for some significant growth right now. So we believe that it's about jobs and the economy, and it's about making sure that we have a skilled workforce through educated students to meet those needs and making Iowa the healthiest state in the nation. And so by putting together a 5-year projected budget, we're committing $400 million so we can take away the concerns of local governments that we're going to reduce commercial property taxes and then they're going to get stuck with a bill. We've said no, we're going to fully fund the tax credits, and we're going to backfill the reduction in commercial property tax to the tune of $400 million, so 5% a year over 4 years, so we reduce it by 20%. We're going to backfill that. We understand how important it is to make sure that our kids, when they leave high school, they're ready for college or career, and that they're able to compete in this knowledge-based global economy. And so we understand that takes additional dollars to do that. And so we've committed some of those dollars, $187 million, to education reform. So you have to make sure that you have ending balances to fund those proposals going forward, and that hadn't been done in the past, and that's why they got in the trouble that they did. So the governor's been pretty consistent. We understand that infrastructure is a key piece to economic development. In our budget, we have some money set aside for rail spurs for communities. I know Osceola is looking for one, just a way that we can look at intermodal to really move the goods across the state of Iowa and outside of the state of Iowa. He has said that he wants to be able to look at taxpayers and Iowans and say, overall, your tax bill has gone down. So if we can get the commercial property tax in place that is permanent and doesn't shift to other classes of property, and it's a reduction for all classes, which residential, commercial, industry, then if we can look taxpayers in the eye and say that, then he would be willing to take a look at increasing the motor user fee. Those who use the roads pay for it. So he's not ruling that out, but at the end of it, he wants to be able to say, even with maybe an increase in that, but with a reduction in commercial property tax, overall, he's able to offer a tax reduction to Iowans. It's a balance. We have to be conscientious of Iowans who are currently working 2 jobs and are traveling to work, sometimes 50 to 60 miles. So we have to be careful about increasing their cost for their home and for their family, in addition to making sure that we have the infrastructure in place to move our goods. Director Trambino has done a phenomenal job for the Department of Transportation. He's a problem solver. He's an engineer and he's got 2 degrees. I can't think of the other one. Finance. He's an engineer and finance major, so that's a good balance to have. And he's also, he's reduced the money. I think we asked him to reduce it by $50 million. He accomplished that last year. He's also working with local governments, counties, and cities to figure out ways that he can get state dollars into their system quicker and that he can better utilize federal dollars coming into the state. So kind of adjusting and repurposing the way that we use those funds. So that's where we're at on that.